She drops a bombshell announcement, marriage and a baby on the way, her expression a mix of resolve and apprehension. Her friend reels back, completely stunned by the sudden cascade of life-altering news. The bride-to-be explains the rush, a desire to fit into her dream dress before the baby bump, prompting an immediate proposal. Beaming with joy, her friend offers heartfelt congratulations, praising the fiancé's devotion. With a confident flourish, the expectant mother slides a pristine, wax-sealed wedding invitation across the table. She smiles warmly, absolutely certain her decade-long friendship guarantees her friend's attendance. The friend accepts the invitation, a polite smile playing on her lips as she begins to inspect it. Her eyes scan the elegant script, landing on a familiar name for the groom, Lee Do-hyun. Looking up, she notes the curious coincidence. Her own husband shares the very same name. A sly, triumphant smirk spreads across the bride-to-be's face, hinting this was no coincidence at all. The bride-to-be, Byolha, coolly confirms this shared name is absolutely no coincidence. Her friend's fingers tremble near the invitation, the horrifying implications sinking in. A wedding photograph is then presented, showing Byolha in a bridal kiss with a man. The close-up confirms the unthinkable. The groom in the picture is her own husband, Lee Do-hyun. Her eyes dart wide with disbelief, staring at the damning evidence of her husband's double life. She remembers Byolha mentioning their upcoming wedding marks a 6-year anniversary. A memory surfaces. Byolha and Lee Do-hyun, hands intertwined, their connection undeniable. Byolha then places a hand on her belly, declaring the child is Do-hyun's, expecting felicitations. Utterly betrayed, the wife shoves her chair away, her world crumbling around her. She turns to her husband, Lee Do-hyun, now present, questioning his sanity and vowing to fight any divorce. Tears stream down the wife's face as Byolha coldly tells her to pull herself together. Byolha reveals a shocking truth through scattered documents. Their marriage was never officially registered. With a triumphant smirk, Byolha declares herself Do-hyun's legal wife, branding the other woman a mistress. Byolha cruelly twists the knife, revealing Do-hyun never loved the wife and never intended to formalize their union. The wife's internal monologue reveals the deepest cut. His lack of love hurt more than the affair itself. Byolha, towering over the devastated wife, icily demands she disappear from their lives. Byolha mocks her further, suggesting her talent lies in being an invisible, silent presence. The wife crumbles, the agonizing truth dawning that her entire relationship was built on a lie. She reflects that this profound deception was the most excruciating pain she'd ever known. Time blurs for the heartbroken wife, who recalls sacrificing her career for a man who betrayed her. She recalls isolating herself, cutting ties with everyone she knew. Paranoia consumed her, making her believe she was a subject of ridicule everywhere. Even the ground beneath her feet felt unstable as she navigated her shattered reality. 3 long years passed in this state of emotional turmoil. She admits she's been fleeing from that devastating confrontation for 3 years. Her desperate hope was that time and obscurity would erase her pain and her from others' minds. A spark of resolve ignites. She realizes she can't continue this way, drawing a parallel to a book's heroine. Her thoughts turn to a specific novel, The Countess of Elgrin. The book details the tragic life of Count Eric, a serial philanderer, and his long-suffering wife, Rosé. She identifies with Rosé, the countess who silently endured her husband's betrayals. She reveals that during her lonely years, she read The Countess of Elgrin to forget her own painful past. But Rosé's passivity in the novel was an uncomfortable mirror, reflecting her own inaction. This realization, however, sparked a firm decision. She would not end up like the tragic countess. She even filed for a name change and contemplated finding a job, just as news of a strong earthquake flashed on screen. Mid-stretch, a violent jolt threw her off balance as the earthquake hit. She screamed in terror, hands clamped over her ears as her apartment started to crumble. With debris falling around her, she desperately cried out for rescue. Her eyes widened in fear as she looked up at the collapsing structure, pleading for anyone to help. A dark thought crossed her mind. She'd sometimes wished for the world to end. But this terrifying, destructive reality was definitely not the ending she had ever wanted. Her final thought before oblivion was the bitter regret of her last memories. Suddenly, she's in a grand mansion, a stern voice demanding a repeat of some unseen news. A well-dressed man, presumably the master of the house, questions if there's been a miscarriage. Another man, likely a doctor, confirms the unfortunate event, attributing it to a great shock the lady endured. The doctor then reassures the master that, despite the ordeal, her overall health remains stable. As the doctor hastily departs, he internally fumes over the master's detached concern for his own wife. The woman, now with striking pink hair, awakens, the exasperated chibi doctor still muttering about quitting. The flustered doctor rushes to her side, addressing her as Lady Wenz, a name she doesn't recognize. Staring at her own hand, she's utterly bewildered by this new name and her unfamiliar surroundings. The doctor gently advises the still weak madam to rest and avoid any strain. A title card reveals the name Rosé Wenz, the sole daughter of a disgraced noble family. It's explained this Rosé foolishly fell for Eric, her family's mortal enemy, and turned her back on them. The woman vehemently denies being Rosé Wenz, insisting it must be a dream, as the doctor looks on, startled. She lurches upright in bed, clutching her nightgown, the shock overwhelming her. Overcome with despair, she buries her face in her hands, questioning what she did to deserve this fate. A flashback shows her terrified face during the earthquake, realizing this new life is far from a happy ending. Her past self's desperate thought surfaces. She would have preferred death to this cruel twist of fate. The scene shifts to an imposing mansion bathed in moonlight, hinting at her new opulent prison. A man, presumably her new husband Eric, leans over her in bed, asking if she's finally regained her senses. Flustered, she wonders when she fell asleep, apologizing and recalling the doctor's warning to rest. Eric, shirtless beside her, callously dismisses her pain, reminding her of the recent miscarriage. The devastating news of the miscarriage finally registers, explaining her recent sleepless nights. She realizes this is the moment the original Rosé's memories returned, her anger flaring at Eric's shameless indifference. He coldly brushes off her feelings, remarking on the 3 long years it took for her to conceive. Despite her trauma, Eric makes unwelcome advances, urging her to simply get it over with. A disturbing insight emerges. The original Rosé might have tolerated this, seeking some warped proof of his affection. Utterly repulsed by his callousness, she forcefully pushes him away. She demands he leave for the day and insists on separate beds until she recovers, much to his surprise. A telltale throb in Eric's neck reveals his simmering frustration at her unexpected resistance. He insists she's misunderstanding as she recoils, a menacing aura emanating from him as she clutches her throat. Eric menacingly reminds her of her past insistence on bearing a child, his hand tightening around her throat. She recoils in bed, utterly shaken by his aggressive demeanor and cruel words. Gathering her courage, she firmly tells him to stay out of her affairs from now on. He departs with a condescending smirk, sarcastically questioning her ability to remember his warning. Clutching her throat, she watches him leave, a mixture of fear and defiance in her eyes. Overwhelmed, she buries her face in her pillow, silently raging against her fate, Eric, the original Rosé, and even the author. A fierce resolve forms. She vows to escape this nightmarish story and this dysfunctional family. Gazing at the imposing mansion, she contemplates the daunting challenge of finding a way out. Looking out the window, she desperately hopes the original Rosé had an ally she can now find. Suddenly, an unseen person's indignant voice declares they are not a maid, hinting at a potential interaction. Rosé's purple eyes widen in confusion at the unexpected outburst. Down below, a blonde maid is berated by 2 others, accused of shirking her duties for days. From her window, Rosé observes the staff squabble, as another maid explains the blonde one, Doana, is causing trouble. A spark of recognition, or perhaps a plan, flickers across Rosé's face as she listens. The blonde maid, Doana, furiously wishes for her phone to record the injustice and call for help. The mention of a phone and 112 sends a jolt through Rosé. Could this maid be from her world? With newfound interest, Rosé calmly instructs the attendant maid to summon the defiant Doana. Doana is brought before Rosé, arms crossed, her expression still radiating indignation. Doana glares, her eyes challenging Rosé, clearly expecting more trouble. Rosé, stirring her tea, calmly addresses Doana, acknowledging the hardship she's supposedly faced. Rosé, with a knowing smile, proposes a private conversation, just the 2 of them. Shortly after their chat begins, Doana reacts with utter astonishment. Doana reels from the revelation that this isn't a dream and they're both trapped inside a novel as Rosé signals for quiet. Rosé confides in a hushed tone, admitting her own bewilderment since waking up in this unfamiliar world. Doana, aghast, connects Rosé's experience to the X-Stong incident, revealing she too suffered an accident nearby. The two women, depicted as chibis, process the incredible coincidence of their simultaneous demise and arrival. Doana, despite her confusion, expresses relief at not being alone and proposes they become friends. A gentle smile graces Rosé's lips as she considers this unexpected meeting a stroke of good fortune. Now in different, elegant dresses, Rosé and Doana share a warm embrace, Rosé confessing her fear of facing this strange world alone. Rosé's internal monologue reveals a newfound hope, believing her chances are better with Doana by her side. Doana proudly introduces herself as Lee Gyoru, a name chosen by her mother to ensure she'd never be defeated. Gyoru, with a knowing smirk, insists Rosé remember her uncommon name, proposing they become allies. Rosé's mind flashes back to a painful memory, recognizing the name Lee Gyoru with a jolt of shock. The flashback reveals Gyoru as her former self's decade-long friend, extending a hand in a seemingly innocent gesture. A stark revelation hits Rosé. This Gyoru is the very woman who betrayed her by taking her husband. Rosé's hands clench tightly on the table, her composure barely masking the storm brewing within. Outwardly, Rosé compliments Gyoru's name, while her mind races, trying to confirm a dreadful suspicion. Rosé cautiously inquires about Gyoru's age, hoping to piece together the puzzle of her past life. A tiny, anxious Rosé internally frets about social etiquette, not wanting to misjudge Gyoru's seniority. Gyoru, with a hint of sorrow, states she's 29, then bitterly remarks on Rosé's youthful marriage and husband. Rosé's chilling certainty hits. This is definitely the Gyoru who ruined her life. Her composure cracks, silently screaming why this ghost from her past has materialized here. Gyoru, ever the actress, playfully asks if they're peers and then demands Rosé's name. Rosé offers Kim Hana, a name Gyoru pretends is entirely new to her, feigning ignorance. A flashback reveals Rosé as Kim Biola had adopted Kim Hana after discarding her original name, living a solitary, friendless life. Gyoru, with a saccharine smile, laments the cruel gods for dragging old vendettas into their new reality. Rosé subtly probes Gyoru's facade, while Gyoru claims Rosé bears a striking resemblance to an old friend. Gyoru's internal monologue sneers, recalling Kim Biola's past self as a tearful, speechless, pathetic figure. Now seated across from Rosé, Gyoru plays dumb about the novel's plot, fishing for information. Rosé sips her tea, knowing her naive former self would have spilled everything, but she'll keep the tragic details of this romance to herself. Gyoru, in a burst of misplaced optimism, wonders if she's landed the coveted role of the story's triumphant heroine. A sly smile plays on Rosé's lips, clearly relishing the information she's about to drop. Gyoru recoils in disbelief as Rosé bluntly informs her she's merely a nameless extra, prompting a desperate inquiry about the actual main character. Rosé coolly reveals that the central figure of this tale is none other than Count Wenz. With a serene, almost smug expression, Rosé then positions herself as the female lead, the Countess. Gyoru leans in, utterly flabbergasted by Rosé's claim to be the heroine, which Rosé casually confirms. Gyoru's eye narrows, a silent testament to her simmering disbelief and judgment. Internally, Gyoru scoffs at Rosé's appearance, convinced she herself possesses superior looks and style. Gyoru, masking her disdain, inquires about Count Wenz, already forming a low opinion of him based on Rosé's supposed role. Rosé, with a wistful look, describes Eric as undeniably handsome, explaining the novel's premise of her character's instant infatuation and pursuit. Gyoru, with a dismissive air, claims no one particularly handsome has caught her eye around here. Rosé assures Gyoru she'd know him on sight, adding that he's a bit distant with her, sparking Gyoru's curiosity. A sly grin spreads across Gyoru's face as Rosé confesses she was the one who pursued him into their marriage. Gyoru offers mock sympathy, implying it's his fault for making a pretty girl like Rosé do the chasing, a scenario she claims is foreign to her. Internally, Rosé sees through Gyoru's act, then outwardly defends her husband, insisting he cares deeply despite his reserved nature. Rosé continues to paint her husband as a good man, who simply struggles with expressing affection, just as footsteps echo nearby. The dashing Count Wenz strides in, remarking on his sleepless nights spent working. Gyoru, feigning surprise, covers her mouth and inquires about the newcomer, while Rosé turns to greet him. With a flourish, Rosé introduces the imposing figure as her husband, Count Eric de Wenz. Gyoru's eyes light up with a predatory interest, clearly captivated by the Count's appearance. Gyoru subtly touches her lip, a telltale sign of her covetous nature flaring up. Rosé internally recognizes Gyoru's old habit, scheming to take what belongs to Rosé, even her husband, for a second time. Rosé silently warns Gyoru that pursuing this man will lead to her ruin, framing it as Gyoru's final opportunity to choose wisely. Gyoru executes a graceful curtsy, formally introducing herself to the Count. She presents herself as Doana, a close friend of Rosé, while the Count remarks on his wife having such an acquaintance. Gyoru positions herself near the Count, falsely claiming a forgotten childhood friendship, as Rosé internally notes Gyoru is sealing her own doom. With a flirtatious gaze, Gyoru tells the Count she's heard wonderful things about him, confirming his amazing reputation. The Count appears momentarily taken aback, a hint of a pleased smile playing on his lips at her compliments. Gyoru internally appraises the Count, noting his impressive physique as gold coins seem to float around her. Her internal assessment continues, acknowledging his handsome face, strong build, and the immense wealth of his household. Gyoru fantasizes about a lavish life with the Count, convinced he's her perfect match, destined to be hers. Internally, Gyoru smugly questions Rosé, believing she's far better suited to be the Countess, as the world has always revolved around her. Gyoru's arrogant conviction solidifies. She believes there's absolutely nothing beyond her grasp. Rosé, looking pale and overwhelmed, suddenly announces she's not feeling well and will head in first. As Rosé rushes off, covering her mouth in distress, the Count calls out her name, a hint of worry in his voice. Rosé internally acknowledges Gyoru's predictable nature, sarcastically wishing her and the Count happiness, deeming them both trash. A newly invigorated Rosé appears, suitcase in hand, beaming with the resolve to leave this mess behind. Rosé clenches her fist with a sudden, almost gleeful understanding, suspecting a higher power wants her to deal with two nuisances simultaneously. Seated with a newfound composure and a sly smile, Rosé declares she won't be easily manipulated as she was before. Rosé thoughtfully considers her future post-divorce, her mind drifting to her past as the daughter of a ruined noble house. Rosé remembers her character's desperate plea to marry Eric, which resulted in her family cutting all ties. She realizes the novel provides scarce details about her family, making any attempt to reconnect a long shot. The grim prospect of homelessness after divorce flashes through her mind, a future she's not keen on. With newfound resolve, Rosé decides she'll not only get divorced, but also build an incredible life for herself. Clutching a note, she concludes that knowledge is power in this world, and it's time to hit the books. Rosé approaches two maids, ready to set her new plans into motion. She requests the maids summon the butler, Mr. Gwen, for a matter of great importance. The urgency of her request is underscored. This isn't a casual chat. The scene shifts to an elegantly appointed room, setting the stage for her next move. Sipping her tea, Rosé calmly confirms to the attentive butler that she indeed requires a tutor. The butler, Mr. Gwen, politely inquires about the Countess's sudden desire for a tutor. Rosé, sipping her tea, coolly states that as Countess, she must understand the world and navigate high society. Her sharp reasoning leaves the butler momentarily speechless, as she emphasizes needing to match their level. Mr. Gwen internally acknowledges her past struggles and newfound resolve to forge her own path, independent of her husband. Rosé expresses relief that the butler is amenable, who then offers to inform the Count of her request. A close-up on Rosé's vibrant purple eye reveals a steely determination. Nearby, the maids exchange uneasy glances, sensing a shift in the household's atmosphere. Gyoru's voice drifts from another room, her playful protest hinting at an inappropriate daytime dalliance. Indeed, Gyoru and Count Wen's are caught in an intimate moment, confirming Rosé's grim expectations of their character. Rosé, peeking through a crack in the door, observes their brazen behavior with a chillingly calm resignation. Rosé, framed by white roses, announces her firm decision to make a fresh start. Elsewhere, Mr. Gwen informs the Count about his wife, Rosé. The Count, casually tying his robe, asks what Rosé wanted, learning she requested a governess. He scoffs, remembering how she previously ignored his advice to be more proactive. The Count nonchalantly permits her request while the butler offers to discuss potential tutors. Dismissing the matter, the Count tells the butler to handle it independently, not wanting to be bothered. Mr. Gwen then spots Gyoru, subtly questioning the Count about her presence and why she wasn't mentioned sooner. The Count, now embracing Gyoru, explains he let Doana sleep in as she feigns a sweet demeanor. His expression hardens as he tells the butler to leave, possessively stating he doesn't share. A visibly uncomfortable Mr. Gwen apologizes and quickly departs, leaving the Count and Gyoru alone. The ornate door clicks shut, sealing the Count and Gyoru in their private world. Gyoru, basking in the afterglow, internally laments the supposed hassle of her own beauty. The Count, holding Gyoru close, playfully questions if their recent activities were to her liking. Gyoru feigns a playful struggle as the Count effortlessly lifts her onto the bed. He smirks, teasingly reminding Gyoru how she seemed to thoroughly enjoy their time together. Internally, Gyoru scoffs, unimpressed by his efforts and deeming them utterly unremarkable. Yet to his face, she purrs that it was amazing, playing her part in their passionate embrace. Meanwhile, Rosé is engrossed in her studies, her notes detailing the complexities of imperial power struggles. Her quill flies across the parchment, meticulously documenting how imbalances give rise to conflict. Rosé throws her hands up in exasperation, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information in her very first lesson. Rosé's studies reveal her family, the Counts of Serviat, were casualties of a brutal imperial power struggle. With Grand Duke Artyom's aid, her parents clung to life, though their house lost all territory and influence. She's horrified, realizing she unwittingly married Eric, the very architect of her family's downfall, surely appearing pathetic to her parents. A critical piece of information surfaces. The current emperor isn't the crown prince's biological father. Her tutor clarifies that after the early deaths of the previous emperor and empress, the crown prince's uncle ascended the throne. The tutor describes the crown prince as a ruthless figure, lacking compassion, making the uncle's rule seem preferable. Rosé diligently notes the tutor's stern warning: never, under any circumstances, get involved with Grand Duke Artyom. She remembers the novel's plot point about Artyom's execution by the emperor's faction, reinforcing her need for caution. A maid enters, informing Rosé that the carriage she ordered to attend an auction and view Count Eric's gift is now prepared. Rosé, internally cringing at her past self's naivety about Eric's gift, quickly confirms her intention to leave. At the auction, Rosé confidently taps an occupied chair, intending to claim it. She politely informs the seated blonde gentleman that he's actually in her spot. The man, with an air of amusement, coolly questions the existence of assigned seating. Rosé, holding bidding paddle number 38, looks utterly mortified as an attendant rushes to intervene. The flustered attendant clarifies that her paddle is for bidding, not for reserving a specific chair. The blonde man reveals he had just asked someone else to vacate the seat, implying Rosé caused a fuss. Rosé, realizing her gaffe, formally apologizes for her rudeness to Grand Duke Artyom. Her eyes widen in sheer terror. This is the infamous Grand Duke Artyom she was warned to avoid. Artyom rises, while Rosé's attendant hastily explains her unfamiliarity with auction etiquette. Rosé and her attendant watch, stunned, as the formidable Grand Duke acknowledges the situation. Rosé's mind screams with her tutor's dire warning: never ever get involved with Grand Duke Artyom. Mortified, Rosé stammers an apology, desperately trying to defuse the awkward situation she created. Grand Duke Artyom observes her with an unreadable yet undeniably captivating gaze. Rosé humbly attributes the offense to her own ignorance, sincerely begging for his forgiveness. A ghost of a smile touches Artyom's lips, a subtle reaction to her earnest plea. Rosé, sensing he might not escalate the issue, plots a quick escape while she has the chance. But just as she plans her retreat, Artyom unexpectedly takes her hand, her bidding paddle falling. Now seated, Artyom coolly gestures for Rosé to take the chair beside him, an undeniable command. Utterly bewildered, Rosé questions why this formidable man is even addressing her, let alone inviting her to sit. Internally, a tiny Rosé wails. Her grand plan to sit at the front has just been royally derailed. Artyom, in a chibi thought bubble, cheekily implies she'd have blocked his view and urges her to sit as the auction is starting. Rosé, internally cringing at his dazzling smile, forces a polite expression. She reluctantly takes the seat, deciding invisibility is her best strategy now. With a flourish, the auctioneer announces the grand event is about to begin. He declares that in this arena, only money matters, and the highest offer claims the prize. The charismatic auctioneer kicks things off, presenting an ancient, sparkling gemstone. Bidding paddles fly as offers rapidly escalate for the coveted first item. Rosé, seated beside Artyom, marvels at the noble's casual extravagance and notes the currency's value. The gavel slams down. The ancient gemstone is sold for a staggering 35 million Ries. Next, the auctioneer teases an item sure to captivate, as a servant presents a stunning necklace. The auctioneer unveils the dazzling Luna's Tear necklace, eliciting gasps of awe from the crowd. He dramatically announces the bidding for the exquisite piece will commence at a hefty 50 million riziers. The bids immediately skyrocket, with nobles eagerly shouting out increasingly astronomical sums for the necklace. Rosé grimaces, remembering this very necklace is a worthless fake that caused Eric significant trouble in the past. Grand Duke Artyom calmly lifts his bidding paddle, number 30, entering the fray. Artyom stuns the room, and Rosé in particular, with a cool bid of 100 million res. The price continues its relentless climb, leaving Rosé wide-eyed and aghast at the escalating figures. Rosé internally frets, realizing she must intervene before this bidding war leads to a disastrous outcome. Undeterred, Artyom prepares to raise his paddle once more, ready to outbid everyone. In a desperate move, Rosé grabs Artyom's arm, urgently trying to prevent him from making the purchase. Artyom, startled by Rosé's grip on his bidding arm, demands to know what she's doing. He coolly questions why his financial decisions would concern her in the slightest. Rosé, visibly flustered, maintains her desperate hold, a bead of sweat tracing her temple. A wave of panic washes over Rosé as the full import of her impulsive act sinks in. Internally, she scolds her meddlesome nature, admitting she acted purely on instinct. With a strained smile, Rosé blurts out her crucial intel. The coveted necklace is a worthless fake. Artyom eyes her with suspicion, questioning her source and the audacity of her claim. A tiny, frantic Rosé internally combusts, unable to reveal her knowledge comes from a novel. Rosé nervously fiddles with her hair, suggesting the auctioneers themselves are likely unaware of the forgery. Artyom, arms crossed and expression severe, warns Rosé of dire consequences if her claim proves false. Rosé is stunned. The Grand Duke actually knows her name, Countess Wenz. Meanwhile, the auctioneer's gavel falls. The Tear of Luna sells for a mind-boggling 3.6 billion les to someone else. Artyom, with a knowing look, coolly asks Rosé if she intends to evade responsibility for her bold claim. Rosé's internal monologue screams that her very survival hinges on speaking up now. Steeling herself, Rosé dramatically declares she'd bet her life on the necklace being a forgery. Artyom, unfazed, questions her willingness to wager her life, while Rosé internally panics, realizing she meant her neck. She frantically tries to retract her extreme statement, waving her hands in denial. Artyom leans closer, a teasing glint in his eyes, remarking on her sincerity but stating his disinterest in taken women. Rosé, completely flustered, desperately tries to explain his utter misinterpretation of her words. Grand Duke Artyom simply turns and walks away, leaving Rosé speechless and aghast. Alone, Artyom mulls over Rosé's warning, finding the situation with the fake necklace increasingly peculiar. He coolly considers that if push came to shove, he could always acquire the necklace from the new owner later. Artyom vividly recalls Rosé's adamant insistence that he shouldn't purchase the item. He remembers her sudden, desperate intervention, admitting he hadn't recognized her at first and was surprised by her presence. Artyom notes Rosé's uncanny resemblance to Lady Serviat, a woman from his past. A flashback to a grand estate prompts Artyom to reflect on a past encounter, pondering what he should have done. In the memory, a very young Rosé shyly hides, refusing to greet someone. The memory focuses on a young, blonde-haired boy, presumably the person Rosé was meant to greet. Young Rosé vehemently denied that this boy was the prince she'd envisioned, clinging to her mother. Returning to the present, Artyom smirks, finding a certain charm in her tearful childhood defiance. Artyom recalls young Rosé's adorable, face-hiding embarrassment, a memory now linked to her knight, Cern. Back in the present, a flustered Rosé admits to Kieran that her encounter with the Grand Duke did not go well. Her loyal escort knight, Cern, offers unwavering support, vowing to protect her regardless of the circumstances. Cern leans in, discreetly questioning Rosé about how a counterfeit item could have possibly appeared at such a prestigious auction. Rosé, with a knowing look, suggests the auction hosts were duped, and the genuine necklace was swapped for a forgery. Cern is visibly stunned by her assertion, demanding to know the source of her incredible information. Rosé quickly silences Cern, pressing a finger to his lips to ensure their conversation remains private. She concocts a flimsy excuse about seeing it in a dream, internally sighing that the truth would sound too unbelievable. As their carriage departs, Cern internally expresses concern for Rosé, questioning her reliance on a supposed dream. Their carriage pulls up to a magnificent sunlit estate, marking their arrival at a new destination. Back at her estate, Rosé diligently reviews documents when a familiar voice calls out to her. A blonde woman, her maid, leans in curiously, questioning Rosé's intense focus on the papers. Rosé demurely explains she's merely trying to pass the time, as idleness breeds boredom. The maid knowingly remarks on Rosé's solitary existence, implying a lack of companionship. She then voices a wish for the Count to treat Rosé with more kindness, observing Rosé's apparent loneliness. Rosé's attention is suddenly drawn to a dazzling, unfamiliar earring adorning the maid's ear. With a smile, Rosé compliments the striking jewelry, playfully guessing it's a gift from Eric. The maid beams, confirming the earrings are indeed a present, and proudly announces she has a new boyfriend. Rosé's smile falters as she internally reevaluates past expressions, realizing a happy facade can hide deeper meanings. A bitter memory surfaces. That same smile now signifies the maid's triumph in secretly taking Rosé's husband. Rosé quickly apologizes, feigning simple admiration for the maid's pretty earrings to cover her shock. The maid smugly agrees, praising her boyfriend's impeccable taste in choosing jewelry that suits her perfectly. Rosé, maintaining her composure, casually inquires how the maid met this new beau, to which the maid credits fate. With a blissful smile, the maid gushes about her boyfriend's absolute perfection, oblivious to Rosé's inner turmoil. The maid's true intentions flash across her mind, a steely resolve to become the Countess, vowing not to fail in this life. A painful memory surfaces for the maid, recalling her past life's disownment for an affair and her regret over marrying. She then remembers viewing her reincarnation into the novel as a divine second chance, a way to escape past mistakes and achieve her desires. Back in the present, the maid internally smirks, relishing the irony of flaunting her happiness to Rosé, whose own marriage is troubled. Rosé offers a radiant yet hollow smile, thanking the maid for her supposed concern and feigning reliance on her friendship. Internally, Rosé scoffs, lamenting ever considering her maid, Doana, a true friend, now seeing through her transparent ambitions. Rosé recalls her past self, weeping over her foolish mistakes and naivety. In the present, Rosé forces a smile, internally questioning how pitiful she must seem now. A knock at the door interrupts her musings, and she calmly bids them enter. A butler announces the arrival of a letter for Rosé as Doana watches with keen interest. Rosé takes the letter, silently pondering who would send her mail, given her supposed lack of connections. Before Rosé can react, Doana swiftly snatches the letter from her grasp. Doana feigns innocent curiosity, wondering aloud if it's an invitation to a grand society party. Rosé, maintaining her composure, confirms it's a party invitation and coolly asks for it back. Doana, eyes sparkling with excitement, eagerly suggests attending the party with Rosé, invoking their friendship. A barely perceptible, knowing smirk plays on Rosé's lips at Doana's audacious request. Rosé, holding the letter, coolly informs Doana there's a catch to her attending the party. With a serene smile, Rosé reminds Doana that such events are for nobles, pointedly stating maids aren't permitted. Doana recoils in disbelief as Rosé cheekily suggests she could attend as Rosé's personal maid. Rosé dangles the possibility that maybe, as her maid, Doana might gain entry. Doana internally seethes, outraged at the audacity of being asked to attend as a servant when she's so close to becoming a countess. Rosé, feigning innocence with a sly glint in her eyes, asks if Doana is upset, claiming she was merely being considerate. Doana forces a strained smile, insisting she's not upset, just a tad disappointed while silently cursing Rosé's annoying demeanor. Doana, still feigning cheerfulness, leans in to see the invitation, prompting Rosé to note her poorly concealed irritation. Rosie's eyes widen as she reads the sender's name, utterly perplexed as to why Grand Duke Artium would contact her. She reflects that their paths never crossed in the original narrative, making this invitation to his salon after their auction encounter all the more baffling. Rosé notes with intrigue that the invitation is addressed exclusively to Countess Wentz, pointedly omitting her husband. Her mind flashes back to the Empress receiving the Tears of Luna, a gift from another noble, a memory now tinged with suspicion. She recalls that even that necklace was a forgery, a scandal the palace tried to bury, but the Grand Duke likely knew the truth. Rosé, clutching the invitation, remembers specifically warning Artium against the purchase, believing their dealings were concluded. A chilling thought crosses her mind. The Grand Duke is destined to die soon, so his current actions hardly matter. Shaking off her morbid thoughts, Rosé decides the salon is merely an opportunity to survey the social landscape, with Doana observing her closely. Doana shoots Rosé a sharp, calculating glance, her mind clearly working. Internally, Doana notes Rosé's swift recovery and grimly accepts she won't be attending the salon with her. Rosé, with a saccharine smile, reminds Doana that such high society gatherings are for nobles, not maids, as Doana seethes at the thought of attending as a servant. Undeterred, Doana's eyes gleam with cunning as she immediately begins plotting a way to infiltrate the exclusive event. Doana touches her lip, a sly smile playing as her scheme takes shape. Internally, she confirms her brilliant idea. The perfect plan is now in motion. With a determined grip, Doana pulls back the curtain to Rosé's wardrobe. She triumphantly flings open the doors, revealing Rosé's collection of gowns. Doana scoffs at the tacky dresses, vowing to replace them once she's countess. Gazing at her reflection, she decides to simply ask the count to take her, as she'll meet society eventually. She then turns her attention to a jewelry box, a slight frown on her face. Doana lifts a tiara from its velvet cushion, deeming it barely acceptable but sufficient for now. Adorned with the tiara, she beams, convinced it looks far better on her than on Rosé. Now emboldened, Doana eagerly rummages through Rosé's belongings, searching for more hidden treasures. Doana's search uncovers a pair of tiny baby shoes, and she audibly wonders about them. Still adorned with Rosé's tiara, Doana callously wonders why Rosé would keep such useless mementos after her miscarriage. She contemptuously tosses one of the baby shoes aside, internally declaring children a mere nuisance. A flashback shows Doana's past self annoyed by a crying baby, preferring pampering, though she concedes nannies would handle childcare. Rosé re-enters her chambers, her eyes widening in disbelief at the utter chaos Doana has created. Doana, caught red-handed amidst dresses and wearing the tiara, feigns innocence, claiming she was just borrowing an outfit. With a saccharine smile, Doana invokes their supposed friendship, while Rosé internally dismisses the value of her old things. Rosé's true strategy surfaces. She must further incite Doana's desire for her noble position. Rosé suddenly lunges, her expression urgent, snatching a particular item from Doana's grasp with a desperate plea. Doana stares, bewildered, as a flustered Rosé clutches a dress, vehemently stating Doana absolutely cannot have that specific one. Rosé clutches a necklace, her expression mournful as she explains it was a wedding gift. Doana internally notes this was the Count's first and only gift to Rosé, her own thoughts dripping with condescension. With a smug smirk, Doana mentally boasts about receiving 3 gifts from the Count already, deeming Rosé utterly charmless. Doana leans in conspiratorially, suggesting she could ask the Count for something on Rosé's behalf, certain of her influence. Rosé feigns surprise, questioning if her husband would truly entertain a request from Doana. A flashback reveals Doana with the Count, as she proudly announces her appointment as his personal maid. The flashback continues, Doana's hand resting on the Count's chest, expressing her desire to serve him more intimately. Back in the present, Doana beams, gloating that she spends far more time with the supposedly affectionate Count than Rosé does. Rosé's hand tightens into a fist as she internally acknowledges Doana's cruel precision in twisting the knife. Rosé abruptly excuses herself, claiming she left something in the study, while Doana watches with a knowing, triumphant smirk. Rosé internally smirks, knowing Doana's taunts fall flat because she isn't the original Rosé. With a decisive click, the door to Rosé's chambers swings shut behind her. Alone, Rosé thoughtfully touches her earring, a subtle smile playing on her lips as she reflects on her plan. Her eyes gleam with resolve. She needs Doana to covet her life, to desire everything she possesses. This, Rosé believes, is the only path to being naturally ousted from the Wentz household. Stepping into the study, Rosé finds important-looking documents strewn carelessly across the floor. She kneels, gathering the scattered papers, noting the untidy state of the room. Examining the handwritten notes, she wonders if a gust of wind caused the disarray. Her eyes fixate on a horrifying phrase, the planned execution of Grand Duke Artyom. A chilling memory surfaces, whispers of poisoning if Artyom were to die like the former emperor, avoiding suspicion. The document reveals a sinister plot, a definitive, doubt-free method to eliminate the Grand Duke, perhaps using a recent incident. Rosé reads in horror the plan to destroy Grand Duke Artyom's reputation, ensuring no one would oppose his execution. Stunned by the contents, Rosé drops the incriminating papers, her mind reeling. She internally fumes, realizing the conspirators, not content with the former empress's demise, now target her son. Panic sets in as Rosé desperately wonders if she should immediately warn the Grand Duke. A chilling thought stops her. Interfering could mean her own death. The sound of approaching footsteps echoes, signaling someone's arrival. The Count bursts into the study, his expression agitated as he slams the door open. He confronts Rosé, revealing Doana informed him of her presence in the study. Rosé turns with a composed, almost welcoming smile, feigning normalcy despite the interruption. Rosé smoothly claims she was merely fetching a book, blaming a breeze for the disarray, all while schooling her features. She focuses on maintaining an air of utter normalcy, determined not to betray her discovery. Observing the Count's hurried demeanor, Rosé innocently inquires if his rush is due to the scattered documents. With a gentle smile, she bends to assist, offering to help him gather the strewn papers. The Count reacts sharply, yanking the documents away before Rosé can touch them further. Rosé feigns surprise at his abrupt action as he quickly collects the incriminating evidence himself. He glares, demanding to know if she read the papers and why she dared enter his private study. Rosé calmly explains she uses the study for lessons, and finding the papers scattered, merely closed the window. The Count internally concedes he did grant her access, a brief memory of this permission flashing through his mind. Visibly irritated, he sternly forbids her from entering the study again, offering a single, begrudging reprieve. Rosé feigns dismay about her lessons, while the Count curtly advises her to rest her hand. The Count turns and exits the study, leaving Rosé to her thoughts. Alone, Rosé exhales, relieved she wasn't caught, but her mind races back to Grand Duke Artyom's plight. That evening, an awkward silence hangs over Rosé and the Count as they dine. The Count casts a sidelong glance at Rosé, his expression unreadable across the table. He unexpectedly proposes a trip together in a week, prompting Rosé to pointedly ask why he wouldn't invite Doana. Rosé then declines his offer, stating she already has plans, internally questioning if this is his way of apologizing for his earlier aggression. The Count's fork drops with a clatter as he pointedly reminds her not to forget the significance of that particular day. Rosé feigns utter confusion, tilting her head as if she has no idea what day he means. Internally, the Count seethes, recalling how Rosé always made a huge deal about her birthday, and wondering why she's feigning ignorance now. Rosé coolly explains she received an invitation from Grand Duke Artyom for a banquet on that very day. The Count, arms crossed and visibly surprised, questions if Grand Duke Artyom sent an invitation to her alone.